She stood behind the counter of a dusty gas station mart, hands trembling slightly as she counted the coins in the till. Rain lashed against the windows like the world itself was weeping with her. Only 47 cents left until her shift ended, and she didn't even have enough money for a bus ride home. The soles of her sneakers had peeled back, her uniform shirt had a stubborn coffee stain near the collar, and her heart felt just as worn. Outside, headlights blinked through the storm, and a figure stepped into the store, soaked and desperate. He didn't ask for much. Just $1. Enough to get to the next town. She hesitated. That $1 was all she had. All. She looked into his eyes, tired, hollow, yet still human, and with a trembling hand, she gave it away. Not knowing that act of kindness, that simple, selfless moment, would come back to her in the most unimaginable way. If you believe in the power of kindness, in second chances, and in the goodness of strangers, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Around Us. Your support helps us keep these real, powerful stories alive. Maria Bennett was 32 and invisible to most of the world. Her job as a cashier in a fading part of town barely paid minimum wage, and every month was a tug-of-war between rent, groceries, and the electric bill. She had once dreamed of becoming a children's book illustrator. Her sketchbook, now dusty and forgotten under a pile of unpaid bills, had not been opened in 2 years. Life hadn't given her time or space for dreams. Her mother had passed away from cancer, and with no family left, Maria had no one to lean on, only the rhythmic beep of scanned groceries and the occasional smile from a regular customer. Even those had begun to fade. That rainy night, she had just $3 left in her wallet. One for the bus, 2 for maybe a loaf of bread or some eggs on the way home. But when the stranger walked in, soaked, shivering, with nothing but a thin jacket and empty eyes, Maria saw something that broke her. He didn't look dangerous. Just defeated. He said he'd lost his job, his car broke down, and he was trying to get to a shelter in the next town. She didn't know if the story was true. But somehow, none of that mattered. He was a person in need. Just like she had been so many times. So she reached into her pocket and gave him her last $1, without a word. The man looked stunned. Then grateful. He nodded, mumbled a thank you, and left into the storm. Maria stood there a moment longer, then walked the 4 miles home in the pouring rain. By the time she reached her small apartment, her feet were numb, her clothes soaked through, and her stomach growled with hunger. She peeled off her wet socks and sat by the tiny heater, trying not to cry. No one would know what she did. There would be no thank you note, no miracle reward. And yet, in a strange way, her heart felt a little warmer. She had given kindness, not because she had plenty, but because she knew what it meant to have nothing. Days passed. Then a week. The memory of the man faded into the grayness of her routine. Life didn't suddenly get easier. In fact, it seemed to get harder. She came down with a flu she couldn't afford to treat, missed 2 shifts, and was nearly fired. Her landlord taped another eviction warning on her door. Maria felt like she was slipping under, caught in a tide of bad luck and worse timing. And then came the knock. It was a Thursday morning. She was wrapped in a blanket, sipping watered-down soup, when someone knocked on her door. Her heart raced. Was it the landlord again? Another notice? She opened it slowly. And nearly fainted. The woman handed her a white envelope. Miss Bennett, you're being invited to the marina downtown. Someone left you a gift. A rather large one. Maria's first instinct was to think it was a scam. But the envelope contained a letter, handwritten, on thick, creamy paper, and a photo. The letter was from a man named Jacob. The photo was of the stranger she'd helped that rainy night. It read, "You gave me more than $1. You gave me dignity when I had none. You reminded me that kindness still exists. I'm not just a drifter. I'm the CEO of a tech company that I started 15 years ago, and after a breakdown, I went incognito to see if there was still good in this world. That night, you changed my life. Now I'd like to change yours." Maria stood frozen. The note went on to explain that he had purchased a yacht in her name, fully stocked, and anchored at the city's private marina. But that wasn't all. A separate fund was set up in her name, enough to pay her debts, support her art, and even enroll in classes if she wished. Standing outside was a sharply dressed woman in her 40s, with a warm smile and an elegant posture. Behind her stood two men in uniforms, captains, maybe. And parked at the curb, like something out of a magazine, was a stretch limousine. Confused, terrified, and certain there had been a mistake, Maria asked what they wanted. At first, she refused to believe it. But she was driven to the marina, where a gleaming white yacht with gold lettering, the Maria Hope, waited for her. On board, she found a small crew, smiling warmly, ready to take her anywhere she wanted. There were art supplies, journals, even a room with wall-to-wall books and a studio. Jacob hadn't just gifted her a yacht. He had given her back her dreams. Over the following weeks, Maria's life transformed. News outlets picked up the story, "Cashier's kindness brings her fortune," the headlines read. But Maria didn't care about the publicity. She used part of her newfound wealth to anonymously support struggling single mothers in her neighborhood, opened a small children's art center downtown, and most importantly, she started drawing again. The simple act of giving a single dollar had changed everything. Not because she expected something in return, but because she gave from the heart. And somehow, the universe gave back more than she could have imagined. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, subscribe to Kindness Around Us, and let us know in the comments how kindness has shown up in your life. Special request, please comment the words, "Kindness lives on," if you believe the world still has good people in it. Your comment might inspire someone else to keep believing.